many people are left behind in Kabul? Because there are very conflicting figures on that, and how many you expect you wish you could evacuate from Kabul?
First of all, thank you for having me. The reason for which there are conflicting numbers is because there is no clarity. There's not a common understanding of who we're talking about. Each country and each organization has its own priorities. I think that as a common denominator, we have all brought out the people most at risk or considered most at risk. We brought out 124,000 people in 14 days. As concerns, if I have to, give a ballpark figure, I think that about half of that number is still left. I hope that not many of these are in imminent danger.
Thank you. And what are the number of migrants that you expect to arrive in Europe in the next weeks? And also, do you see the risk that some of them could basically embed like possible threats or militants also coming into Europe?
As for your second question, I'm sure that's the case, and that is the attempt. We have put in place measures, and I think a number of countries have put in place measures to avoid that. But in big numbers, it's inevitable. Inevitable. You're on the risk. As concerns the numbers, I know that the UN has been talking 500,000. The IOM and the UN has some pretty good monitoring mechanisms. That, of course, will depend on what type of attitude the Taliban will take. If they want to weaponize migrants, which is always a possibility, or if they try to keep people in by soothing their concerns and kind of avoiding this impression to the whole world that they have arrived in power and half the country wants to leave. So there's a number of factors.
Thank you. And do you believe ISIS-K is actually building a base in Afghanistan, and how are you dealing with that risk?
ISIS-K has had a base in Afghanistan. I know they have territorial ambitions, if not claims, in the Nangarhar and Kunar, Aceh, the provinces which are at the border with Pakistan. That is a risk that the Taliban will have to deal with, I imagine, our assistance. So yes, the caliphate is by definition has a territorial entity, and they're trying to get it back.
And do you think that actually the relevance and efficacy of NATO could be affected by what happened in Afghanistan?
Well, certainly there will be a lot of soul searching and questions asked, and as I think NATO is pretty rock solid, but there are a lot of lessons to be learned from Afghanistan, and I'm sure that we will learn them.
And linked to that, what is your biggest regret about what happened, and your personal feelings about what you witnessed then?
Well, if I go on the emotional side, it's I continue to receive 20, 30, 40 messages a day by people who it's irrelevant if they are actually in danger. The problem is they feel in danger, and that people I've worked with, people I know, people I've heard of, and so on. From a professional point of view, if in all this tragedy you can talk about profession. It is an epochal change in that part of the world, which we'll have to live with.
A EU common defense and military response, that in that case the EU kind of disappeared when it comes to the US. I mean, what should the EU do to rebuild its unity?
Well, I think the EU is unified. It's it is the issue of common EU defense has been. I dealt with it 15 years ago in the EU. Is certainly on the table. I'd say as a general point that if somebody has 90% of the assets and 90% of the political clout, it will take 90% of the decisions. So if you want to change that, but that is a political issue rather than a technical one, and it's above my pay grade.